Product Management Institute survey 2022. It says 67% of product managers report no formal training in pricing methodology or financial methodologies or financial modeling, right?
2/3 of all product managers don't have these essential skills. I'd say it's a problem. So I think maybe that's one of the reasons why product as a discipline isn't really getting as much traction.
Well, it's also the PMI that did the study. So I kind of like a Product Management Institute did a study in 2022 and said everybody that we surveyed that was all product managers turned XYZ said that they didn't care about financials, which now that you frame it that way, like that doesn't strike me as odd at all.
This is surprising because there's so many previously named as project managers are now product managers. But project management teaches you about project financing.
I understand what you're saying, but also, there's a lot of project managers out there that their only job is to stand over your shoulder, tapping the ruler.
When's it done?
That's right.
When's it going to be done?
That's right.
I guess.
All right. The steelman here is super easy. Pricing requires financial modeling, and that's beyond the training of a typical PM. Like, if we're saying that 80% of PMs out there, that's the number we just made up, by the way, are backlog admins. That style of PM, how are we going to try to institute this at a large scale? You even said earlier, you got to talk to sales.
You do, yeah, because sales presumably has on their radar what other competitors are charging, etc. Right. And you should have some idea who they are, but you may not be privy to their financial models necessarily. But sales should be.
And not to undercut myself, financial skills, just like any skill, just like HR. I got to learn how to interview people. I got to learn how to have a conversation to make sure people are meeting our expected level of performance. These things they're all learnable. Financial literacy, learnable. However, I was at a company one time that was acquired, and after the acquisition, they took away financial responsibilities from the managers in the organization. Now, I was more a product owner in that organization, which is some responsibilities of product manager were divorced and put on managers. It wasn't exactly the perfect atmosphere for this. What is, right? But it's a great example when the private equity folks took over. Not only did they not train, but they made financials more obscured because they took them away from the managers now. Whereas before, it had full visibility of the financials. So I would say companies are all over the map here. It's going to be very difficult to do this. I understand that's what we're lobbying for is PMs should be doing the pricing. It is a product function. However, it's so messed up in 80% plus. It's probably more than that of companies that I don't know if we're going to get back to a place of balance.
There's hope, right?
Well, we can't end the podcast this early.
That's right. So with companies that are acquiring other companies, acquirers or holding companies like that are notorious for keeping all of these financial type decisions centralized into a separate area, typically
an area,
at the corporate level.
An area with no product managers.
Exactly, right. Yes, divorced away from product managers. Small companies.
And sanity.
Yes, of course. Most small companies, though, they don't have the hierarchical burden, right? So I think in that environment, the product manager has a bit more autonomy to work with finance, sales, etc., because they're reachable, right? Yep. With a holding company or anything like that, good luck with that.
Okay, well, that's a solid takeaway here is if your company is a size where these folks are approachable, then you're not beyond saving.
You should take the onus, right, on yourself to go learn some of this stuff and reach out to your peers.
And I will tell you personally, this is how I learned it. I learned it by reaching out to C-level folks who set basically at the different companies. I basically learned it mostly when I was on the period of my career when I did contracting product management. And when I would work with the C-suite, I would talk pricing with them. How did you get to this number? What is the lifetime value? How did you calculate it? And basically inserted myself into the middle of pricing discussions, and that's how it happened. But I did that because it was small companies, and at small companies, usually people are just happy that anyone's even interested in these things that they're doing in addition to their normal job responsibilities. And they're just happy to talk about them, even if they're not just happy to talk about them because they're happy that other people are interested in these things that they've just been kind of silently, quietly doing when nobody is looking, to get a second opinion.
Validation. Yeah, exactly.
The best people that I work with, they invite this kind of scrutiny because they're looking to learn, to be like, oh, I didn't consider that, or maybe you see something I didn't see. But
what you're saying talks directly to the culture of the company, regardless of size. Because some small size companies also don't work this way. It depends on the corporate culture.
Yeah.
But yes, I agree. I think if you're a C-level person who is basically coming up with these things, it behooves you to get some validation at least.
Yeah. So, but take a step back home. It's story time. So I worked at a place one time where a small company, very tiny little small company, usually the founders will set the pricing, right? Like nobody else is like, they don't know enough. Usually the founder is the subject matter expert, right? They set the pricing. And over time, as customers grow, as you deviate a little bit from your ICP and you go to a broader audience, your offering goes out to people who aren't exactly in your ideal customer profile or ideal customer persona. And then your pricing might change. So you say, well, I want to go over here and sell to big enterprise clients, or I want to go over here and sell B2C. Another place I was at, we were B2B software, but it was really B2B2C software. Like the purchasers and the customers were not the same, right? And then we got into the B2C market where we sold mobile applications directly to consumers. And then there was a pricing conversation there to be like, well, do we do a subscription? Do we do a one-time fee in the store? Because some apps you just one-time fee. It's a good amount of money. And then whatever other apps you buy a service, but then the conversion rate for service versus the people actually willing to just buy an app is like very low. Some apps in the app store, you buy them and then they have a cycle. Like they're only up there for like 18 months, 2 years, and then they go away and they come out with their new version. You have to re-buy the new version, which really like causes some friction. And almost every time I've gone through this, it's usually the person that set the initial pricing. They're the one that everyone in the company looks to,
right,
to go back and do the pricing again. And because the founder of the company set the pricing when the company was like 8 people or whatever, and now the company's 500 people, like that person that founder who is still with the company magically somehow, everyone's looking to them to set the pricing. And they're doing a bunch of other stuff. They're running the whole business. They have hundreds of employees. They're doing hiring. They're doing firing. They're doing budgeting. They probably answer to some financial person somewhere else if there's PE involved or whatever. And they should not be the single point of failure here doing the pricing anymore, because they can't dedicate the research time anymore. Basically, they're doing too much is what I'm saying. They're doing too much. They need to delegate that pricing, research, conversation. I'm not saying the person that does that stuff shouldn't answer to this person and tick all the boxes, answer all the questions, right, and not be informed. That's not what I'm saying. They should do that, and if they can't figure it out, then you should get a panel of people or the right person, or maybe the person you got in the job is not the right person. But I'm not like going back and having that original founder who now is like super strapped down with other activities because the business has grown. That's not the right thing to do.
Absolutely. That founder, like, in addition to doing 1,000 other things now, because they're now growing,
right,
they're not doing what they need to do, which is that research that can inform the pricing decisions. They're not doing that. So
right.
They're basically going on gut feel, yesteryear's stuff that they say, oh, this is how we used to price it. We should probably just do that. Yeah, just adding the cost of inflation. That's not always the best way to go.
Yeah.
You need extra pair of eyes to look at this stuff. And those other people with those extra pairs of eyes can do the research. You don't have to be the one doing it. So it's twofold, right? If you're a product person in an organization like that, expect this to happen, first of all. And when it happens, be the first one to put your hand up. Go learn those financial things that you don't know about. And then try and ask for the owner to let go of some of those things and trust you. If you're one of those owner type people, let go at some point, right? I mean, you can't do it all forever.
I think you just hit a whole different podcast right there that we got to talk about.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, the growing a business, like when to let go, that kind of stuff. If your product managers can't do pricing because of different reasons, no time, someone won't let go, they lack skill or whatever, it may or may not be your hiring bar that you're like, oh, we got to raise the bar or whatever. It may not be just that alone. It may be a bunch of other factors. So again, that flow, earlier in the podcast where we talked about that flow diagram of like who does what, by when, who discusses it, who makes the final decision. You got to have all that written down somewhere. You got to have these processes written down somewhere.
This doesn't have to be like very elaborate, right?
No,
you could do just like what I call a force field diagram. Just write down who does what, put people's names in little bubbles, and just put arrows and say this person does this. I mean, believe me, that one picture worth its weight in gold.
Although I could totally pin somebody down in this discussion and demand. No, I want to know who in your business. If I was running the business, and I would say, look, I'm like Brian and Ohm Software Development Company. We started it as Brian and Ohm Software Development Company. Ohm just screamed at me, keep develop more, faster. But in German, I don't know why he was speaking German, because he lives in Berlin land. That's why.
Yeah, well.
Was that Spanish? That's a callback to episode 1 right there. That's you guys. That
was a long time ago.
That's a lot of salt in that dump truck. That's a salt mine over here. Every business process is like that, though. It's like who does what, but by when, like that old kind of thing is like who is responsible for what decision, who's responsible for carrying out what business process. Like, if you're not writing this stuff down, where does it live? I mean, it lives all in your founder's head. Okay, well, how does it live in your founder's head when there's 500 people in the organization? 1,000 people? We kind of already segued into the takeaway. You already have your map of who does what, deciding for your pricing and whatnot. So maybe you can add to that on top of this. Well, what research have they done? Like, do they understand the value-based versus competitive versus cost-based? Can they explain the difference between cost plus, value-based, competitive pricing, all the different types of pricing?
Yep.
And then let's write down the research that they did for pricing, and show us that. Bring that research back to the group. I'm hoping one person is not just deciding on pricing in the dark by themselves.
Listen, it doesn't sound silly to me, because in practice,
that's how it happens. Yes.
And the flip side of that, most people just simply take that. Well, so-and-so said that must be true. Feel free to challenge these pricing decisions and start with the basics, right? Yeah. What you're not doing here is simply knocking down somebody else. What you're doing is trying to get validation on what's happening here, right?
I don't know if we came away in this category clean. So I got in this category was like skills are 50% of it. Like you need the skills to do it. If you're a PM, you don't have the skills, you can't do it. But also your organizational design matters. Yes. So if the PMs are not ever invited into the room where it happens, it's for you, Lauren. It's 2 podcasts. I did that for you, Lauren. Then you're never going to get the results you're looking for. So I don't feel like we made it. Like we had our steelman, we had our points. We still didn't get a good takeaway out of this one. I'm going to throw it over to the audience. Do you have good experience with this one, or are you like me, where you're like, most people are just going to like pricing? Oh, the adults will take that one, Brian. Get on out of here.
That's somebody else's decision. Do let us know in the comments down below.